everyone, I'm thrilled to share that Camp Monsters, the spine-chilling podcast from REI Co-op Studios, is back for Season 6. Camp Monsters dives into eerie encounters with creatures lurking in the wildest corners of North America. This season, they're exploring mysterious spots like the shadowy woods of Wisconsin, the haunted rivers of the Southwest, and more. It's the perfect podcast to set the mood for spooky season. So grab some friends, gather around the fire, and tune into Camp Monsters wherever you listen to podcasts.
Your horizon is your limit instead of the boards around an ice rink. Like, it takes me 2 seconds to go across the ice and I have to turn around in an ice rink, but wild ice is, I could skate miles and miles and I haven't even hit the mountains on the other side of it. And that's such a freeing feeling. It's what keeps me going back.
For almost all of her adolescent years, Angelina Huang was a professional figure skater. She won the U.S. National Championship at age 14 and joined Team USA as one of the top skaters in the country. Then, a few years ago at age 18, Angelina decided to quit and stepped away from the sport completely. After taking some time off, she discovered a niche that rekindled her passion: wild ice skating. In videos she posts online, Angelina coasts over the surface of frozen lakes and rivers in front of wintry cities and snow-capped mountains. She used to be bound by the walls of the rink, but skating outside on wild ice has become an unexpected source of joy and freedom. I'm Shelby Stanger, and this is Wild Ideas Worth Living, an REI Co-op Studios production brought to you by Capital One. Also, before we dive in, just a note that Angelina's sport, wild ice skating, can be dangerous. If you're thinking about going out on the surface of frozen rivers or lakes, do your homework and make sure that the weather and ice are safe. Angelina Huang, welcome to Wild Ideas Worth Living. You are our first wild ice skater. I'm so excited to speak with you today.
I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Really quickly, for those who don't know, what is wild ice skating?
Yeah, so I call it the extreme side of skating. It basically just means you strap on your skates, you go out and ice skate on natural ice, hasn't been touched. It's perfectly frozen the way that it comes.
And I'm sure there's some risks, there's some adventure with it. You also competed for the U.S. national team for ice skating.
Yes, I represented the United States. I was on Team USA for a couple seasons, and I got the privilege to travel the world, compete, represent our country, and was a national champion one year as well. So very high-level competitive in what I like to think another lifetime.
Okay, this other lifetime. Tell me a little about this other lifetime. I know nothing about being a professional figure skater. What was your competitive career like?
I started skating at the age of 6. I just stepped on there. It was super recreational. I never really seriously started training until I was 11, which is considered really late in professional skating. Most people are out there full-time training by the time they're 6, 7, 8. So I didn't start until I was 11, and my coach back in my hometown said, you have some potential. Do you want to give it a go? Training elite. And my parents said, you want to give it a year? We'll homeschool, we'll try it out, and if you hate it, we can come straight back. And I said, sure, why not? I might as well. I didn't really know much at the time and went out to train, and I qualified for my first U.S. national championships right then and there. And I said, well, I feel like there's no turning back now.
So at age 11?
Age 11, that's when I first started training.
Okay, what did that look like?
Oh, many, many, many hours in the rink. I was there at about 5 a.m. and wouldn't leave around 5 p.m. And we also do ballet, varieties of dance. There's cross training, conditioning, all sorts of things. So we're at the facility, but we're not necessarily on the ice. So 6 days a week, had Sundays off, and dedicated my entire childhood to that.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm a little blown away. That's intense for an 11-year-old. So when did you do school?
Honestly, I didn't. I spent all of my Sundays studying and basically did a week's worth of school in one day because we just didn't have a break. It was eat, sleep, skate, eat, sleep, skate. Like that was my day every day.
What are some of your fondest memories of the sport?
There's a period of my life where I like really struggled with skating. I just had a lot going on and I wanted to quit. I actually did quit. This was before I really even had a career. I just was kind of burning out. But I was starting to be watched by Team USA, and they had invited me out to go train out in Colorado Springs at the Olympic Training Center. And so I said, sure, why not? Might as well. And I went out to Colorado Springs to just give it a try. And I found a coach who I absolutely love. His name's Damon Allen. He has changed my life in so many ways, but he helped me refine my love in skating, at least in the competitive side. And so I slowly crawled my way back. I had stopped skating for so long that skills were tough to do, and nobody knew that I was still skating. And I came back and started competing, and I made it to regionals, I made it to sectionals, and I skated horrible at sectionals. And I had a moment there where I was like, I'm done. I qualified for nationals in the very last place that you could qualify. And I was like, I'm supposed to be this amazing skater. I should just be done. I'm going to get through nationals and maybe I'll just stop skating. And I had actually a skating news outlet who wrote a story about me and said that I was a very crappy skater and I'm just a very lucky skater because I just seem to crawl on the podium every time. And I found that article a couple weeks before I was supposed to go out to nationals and was obviously livid. I was so mad, and I think that really just lit a fire in me. And I went out to nationals. I was predicted to get second to last place. That was my ranking going into it. And I just really skated my heart out there and really just enjoyed nationals and took it for what it was. And I ended up winning. And that's when I became national champion, and everyone was shocked. I was shocked. But it's a little comeback story that I'm just super proud of.
After becoming a national champion, Angelina was invited to join Team USA, which had been a dream of hers since childhood. She spent a few seasons on the team as one of the 15 best skaters in the country, traveling the world and competing internationally. But partway through 2021, Angelina had a life-altering realization. Skating didn't make her happy anymore. After some reflection, she made the difficult choice to retire. You are competing all day long at the highest level, high stakes for your country. I'm guessing you're getting paid.
No, not getting paid.
You're not getting paid.
We don't get
so
paid.
You're not getting paid. You have this prestigious job that's unpaid, and you decide to quit. That must have been a big decision.
Yeah, it was very hard. I think the retirement journey is something that most athletes don't talk about, but I think especially the higher level you go, the harder it is. Like you said, it is all that you know. Skating was my identity. Nobody knew what else I was capable of. I didn't even know what else I was capable of. All I knew was skating. It was my life. I've been doing it since I was a tiny child. I knew nothing besides that. I don't remember a life without skating. And retirement was very hard. I retired almost on a whim. I had a conversation with one of my coaches. He's a choreographer, and he made me realize that I wasn't happy in the sport anymore and that it was about time to change my life. And he really encouraged me to just do whatever I really felt like. But I think in that conversation, I realized that I honestly had accomplished everything that I had dreamed of. My dream as a kid was to make Team USA. I saw one of my teammates put on a jacket, and I was like, I want that. And I'm so lucky to have been able to do that for a couple seasons. And for me, I had done everything that I had wanted to, and I was like, I think it's about time to go search for something else. There's so much in life, and all I knew were those 4 concrete walls, and I call it my concrete ice box. I just spent every day in it, and I just needed a change of pace. But it is really tough.
So how did you get through it?
I'm still working on it. It tore me apart. I am lucky that I made the decision on my own. It wasn't because of an injury or anything else that sent me out of the sport. I'm the one who said, I am done, I'm retiring. But even then, I think it's so incredibly tough because you're leaving behind what feels like your entire life. I say it all the time. I felt like when I retired, it was me waving goodbye to my childhood. But I think now I am lucky to have refound my passions in skating through a different life through Wild Ice. And that's honestly helped me, like, while it's still skating, it's helped me form a different identity with skating, and as well as just like find a love that's like out of that competitive world that I knew.
When Angelina retired, she decided to go to the University of Wisconsin as a normal college student. For many 19-year-olds, this would feel like a typical next step. But for Angelina, going to college was quite the culture shock. Instead of being at the rink all day, she was going to class, attending football games, and making friends outside of skating. During that first year on campus, Angelina didn't ice skate at all. Then, one winter day, when she was walking near some frozen lakes with a friend, she was inspired to try something new. So tell me how you found wild ice skating. Like, what was that first time like?
Sure, yeah. So I was 19 years old, post-retirement, didn't touch the ice for nearly a year, and I just happened to have my skates in my car. I don't really know why, but I was with a friend, and we were just driving around, stopped at the park with the lake for sunset, and I saw 6 EMTs just walking out on the ice, and I had just asked them, I was like, out of curiosity, like, when is it safe to skate? And they're like, if you want to skate now, you can. And I was like, I have my skates in my car. Like, what if I got on and you guys watched me to make sure I was safe? Like, would that be cool? And they were like, yeah, sure. They were like all for it. And right then and there, I whipped out my skates and got on and did absolutely nothing but like stroked around the ice. And that was my very first taste of wild ice. Had no idea what I was doing. Was so naive, but just thought it was like so cool that I was skating on a natural body of ice. And that was the first time I ever stepped on wild ice.
Okay, what did it sound like? What did it look like?
Yeah, well, it sounded terrifying. You can hear the ice like creak and bend under the pressure of your skates. And for someone who had never done that before, like that was so scary to me. You can see like through the ice at the rocks and the weeds underneath. And it's such a foreign concept to me. But it was honestly so terrifying the first time I was out there. And I just did very basic skating, didn't do any tricks, barely turned backwards, let alone.
I'm sure your basic skating looks pretty awesome.
Thank you. But yeah, to me, it was like very like easy skating, and I like didn't push it, and just like kind of stroked around in circles. It was so cool. You can see like the marks you leave, the trails of you just like skating through the ice, and with like an ice rink, because it's white, like you don't see it that prominently, but because wild ice is black, because like under the ice is clear, but like underneath it's black, so like it's super clear, like the marks you make, and it's just really cool to be seeing my edges out on wild ice.
So needless to say, you were hooked.
Oh, I was hooked. I immediately searched when the next time I could go out was, and that really just kicked off my first season. I was out there every minute that I possibly got before school. I was out there before classes at sunrise. As soon as I got off of classes, I was out there for sunset, and I was out there literally every day that the ice allowed.
That's pretty freeing.
Yeah.
How did that feel?
Oh, I loved it. It was so nice to just like do it on my own time. Like when I skated competitively, like I was forced to get up at 4 a.m. to be at the rink. But for wild ice, like I'd get up at 4 a.m. so I could be there before the sun had even started to light up.
It's interesting. I only can relate to your story a little bit, but a lot of my athletic background was a track and a field. And they both have lines and boxes, and they're like very uniform. And so when I found adventure sports like surfing and hiking, I love the fact that there was like no lines, no boxes. It was just so free. And I'm curious, like if you also were struck by the fact that the lake is just so different than the ice rink.
So different. Your horizon is your limit instead of the boards around an ice rink. Like it takes me 2 seconds to go across the ice and I have to turn around in an ice rink. But wild ice is, I could skate miles and miles and I haven't even hit the mountains on the other side of it. That was so freeing, just to have like endless ice and no one around to watch you, and just like you had the creative freedom and it was your world, because like nobody else is crazy enough to be out there with me. It's just me alone in a lake with like the nearest person is like miles away, and that's such a freeing feeling. And it's what keeps me going back.
Angelina is known for wearing a bright yellow puffer jacket as she performs some of her favorite tricks and choreography on the ice. On social media, she posts videos of herself soaring across beautiful frozen lakes and rivers. Her blades make artistic lines on the surface, and her reflection dances beneath her. When we come back, Angelina talks about how she stays safe on the ice, the most amazing places she skated, and the allure of the first freeze. Ready to turn your everyday spending into limitless possibilities? The REI Co-op MasterCard has you covered with rewards and benefits that support your love of the outdoors. This card is exclusively for REI members, taking your membership even further with rewards on every single purchase, whether you're shopping at REI or anywhere else. The best part, you can redeem your rewards as soon as you earn them, so you can finally grab that new fleece you've been eyeing and keep more cash in your pocket. Head over to rei.com/MasterCard-podcast to see if you're pre-approved today. That's rei.com/MasterCard-podcast. Terms apply. Celebrate the spirit of women who explore the outdoors with the all-new Inquire Mid collaboration from REI and Danner. The exclusive Inquire Mid hiking boots are available in 3 limited edition colorways, great for hitting the trail or strolling through town. The Inquire Mid is fully equipped with Danner dry waterproofing, a stable trail guard platform, and a custom Vibram outsole, delivering incredible grip on wet and dry surfaces. Plus, with their all-new Woman's Precision Fit, you'll experience superior heel support and a roomier toe box for unmatched comfort. Whether you're heading up into the mountains or out for a cappuccino with friends, the Inquire Mid has you covered. And the cherry on top, you can extend your boot's life with Danner's recrafting services. Limitations apply. Check out the new Inquire Mid collection at your local REI or at rei.com today. Former professional figure skater Angelina Huang rediscovered her love of skating on the frozen lakes of Madison, Wisconsin. When she first started, Angelina knew if she saw people standing on the lake ice fishing, then the ice was thick enough to support her too. As she's ventured to more remote places, Angelina has had to learn which surfaces are safe for skating. As you can imagine, it can be very dangerous to skate on wild ice. It's hard to tell how thick it is, and if you fall in the water, you can quickly become hypothermic. One day when Angelina was skating, her foot broke through. It was a scary moment and an important wake-up call.
The ice had looked the same to me at the time. Like, I didn't know a difference. And I was like, but there has to be some sort of tell that, like, the ice was getting weaker. And from there, I was like, let me do some research. So I spent all summer long trying to work on just like my own knowledge. And that's when I started doing like self-rescue, sort of like testing as well. And I kicked off the next season with a bunch of safety gear on me, which was very important. I wear like a super flat, thin, like I think it's a kayaking life vest on the days that ice is scary. I take it off when, again, like ice is like 10 inches thick. Like, you judge by what you know. But I have like ice like picks that like I carry with me in case I fall through. I need to be able to help myself out because nobody else is coming to get me. I'm like 3 miles away from shore. So stuff like that, like a rope, a whistle. I have like a whole gear kit now, and I take that out with me when I skate.
Okay, so you did some research on like the ice. Like, it's really risky. What did you learn about it that you didn't know? Like, how do you know if the ice is safe? How do you know if it's not safe?
Ice is safe enough at about 1 3/4 inches if there's no bubbles in them. I know that's like super technical. It's hard to measure, but that's like the absolute bare minimum that'll support somewhat safely. But with that is like there's a lot of like variables to ice, whether that's temperature, that's the biggest one. Wind can play a very big factor. Snow, even like the currents underneath, like the lakes and rivers, that plays a big factor. If it's a lake, I try to do research about it way ahead of time so I understand like the depths of the lake in certain areas, as well as like where the currents flow, and where wind usually comes in from, just so I know how safe certain areas of the lake is, because you could be totally fine skating on one half of the ice and it's like super safe. It's like 5 inches thick, and you cross like a little crack, not even a crack, but you cross a little difference and that ice becomes less than an inch and you're going in. So it's really hard like in the moment to know. So I always try to test a boundary while I'm out there. You can do that using like an ice screw to like literally drill through and see how thick it is. You can also use a rock, which you just kind of watch it hit and listen and see how the ice reacts. But like using like a combination of these methods, like I try to test a boundary so that I know kind of like where I can push and where I need to like stand back. Because there's definitely places where really like I've skated right up against open water. Like I'm standing maybe like 5 feet away from it and I'm on ice that's 5-6 inches thick and I'm totally safe. But because the wind and the currents have ripped apart that part of the lake, like I'm literally standing, like I could stand there and fish. Like that's how close I am. And so, yeah, I've done a lot of research to try to understand it, but it's not perfect. And I think wild ice is something you have to, when you go out and skate, you have to recognize that you can be as prepared as possible, but there is always a risk, no matter how much you know and how prepared you think. I recognize the fact that there is always a danger aspect to it.
Do you have a story of a situation where it was a little bit more dangerous than you imagined, or where you did crack the ice?
I have definitely skated where the ice has cracked behind me as I've skated. You shouldn't be doing that. That was a good learning experience for me. I was really pushing the edge of a first freeze. There are times where like I've skated over things that I'm like, I shouldn't be skating on here. And like, let me backtrack the way I came from to make sure like I'm somewhat safe. So no close calls, just because I think my preparation side has been pretty strong. But I wouldn't be surprised if in a little while I do, let's say, like plummet through the ice, because it is really hard to tell sometimes. But I am prepared for that. So that's where the self-rescue training comes into play.
What does that look like, self-rescue training? Like, how do you do that? Who comes with you?
I started doing that recently because I realized that, like, again, if I'm out in these alpine lakes and alone, I have to be able to save myself. So at least what this past season looked like, I had a nurse on site, like an EMT, and basically they take my vitals beforehand and we run through everything that should happen. I go through the ice, I pull myself out, this is what it should look like. And we picked a day where the ice was weak. Like we knew it was going to break under just walking out there. And sure enough, I walked out there, plummeted through the ice. Funny enough, like not when I thought I was going to. I thought I was going to walk out even further. But that was good because I wasn't 100% prepared for it. And I dropped in and cold shock like came immediately. And that's something like you can prepare for in the sense that you know it's going to happen. But like I didn't realize how bad that like hits your body. Like I had ice picks on me and I forgot that they were there. Like I was swimming in the water trying to figure out what I was supposed to do. And I finally came to my realization when I saw I had ice picks. I was like, oh, I need to use that to get out. But like I had planned this like again and again and again prior to the test. But it's just cold shock is like so serious. And I didn't realize it till like a test like that. And I was like, wow, like my mind just went blank.
Angelina prioritizes preparation and safety, which allows her to venture to places off the beaten track, like high alpine lakes, ice tunnels, and even glaciers. She tends to go skating in the freezing cold. Like last year, when she was in Alaska, the temperature went down to negative 25 degrees. It was uncomfortable, but for Angelina, the cold is worth the cost of admission.
I went out actually to Fairbanks, Alaska to go watch the aurora, not even to go skate. And I had extra space in my carry-on, and I said, I'm bringing my skates. Why? Don't know. And brought it out. Just in case, because I'm addicted to skating, apparently. And I went on a hike to a glacier, and there's a lake nearby, and I'd brought my skates with me on that hike in hopes to skate on that lake. We had passed the lake, and I realized it's covered in like 10 feet of snow. Like there's no way. And we get to this glacier and inside is like this like like the smoothest ice to exist, and there's like just like frost on like the ceiling of the cave, and it's like dark all the way at the end. You can hear like the running water underneath it. It was like such an insane experience, and I, being the insane person I am, was like, I'm putting on my skates, and I strapped them on and skated in an ice cave, and just it's so surreal even now that I speak about it. I'm just like, I can't believe that's real.
Okay, I want to go wild ice skate. I can barely ice skate, but it sounds so fun. So are you hiking into any of these places?
Yeah, sometimes. It depends. I try to pick places that I can just drive up to, mostly because it's really cold and I want a place to sit later to take off my skates. But sometimes, yeah, I'm hiking a couple miles in to get to these lakes. I'm thinking this season I might be pushing some 5, 10, 15-mile hikes just to get to a lake that I want to skate at. So depends, but sometimes it is a drive up sort of situation. Sometimes it is like a hike all the way in for a beautiful lake.
Where are the best places to be a wild ice skater?
Ooh, so anywhere that the lakes freeze. But I would encourage people who do want to get into outdoor skating for the first time to go somewhere where it is maintained. Here in the Midwest, like Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, like there are places where like they do like maintain the ice and make sure like it's safe, and I think that's a great place to start. But like true wild ice skating, I love Colorado. To be fair, that is home for me, but just being on alpine lakes in the mountains is surreal. I'm biased. I love Madison. That I think will always hold a special place in my heart. It's where I started wild ice skating. It's my home wild ice. And it's just such a beautiful like scenery that you get like somewhat of nature as well as like a skyline in the background, which is just really cool. Banff is one that's really popular. And if you can catch that first freeze, which don't try this at home. But for someone like me, like if you can catch that first freeze, it is like it's supposed to be like miraculous, which is what I'm going to chase this season. But I would definitely recommend, as long as it's safe, anywhere in Canada, anywhere where lakes freeze, really. Like you can make wild ice your own.
What is the allure of the first freeze? Is it because, I mean, I'm a San Diego person, like I know nothing about snow and ice. Is it because you can see so clearly below you?
Yeah, so partially. Part of it is that with the first freeze, it's usually very, very smooth because it's just glazed over. The wind hasn't touched it. The snow hasn't touched it. Temperatures haven't changed. And if you can get that first day where it's skatable, it's gorgeous. And if you're skating somewhere like Colorado, Banff, literally anywhere in the mountains, like it's such blue, clear ice that you can see through it. And it is one of the coolest things. I saw it for the first time this past season in Colorado, and I got to see through the ice, and the rocks were like probably, my guess, like 30 to 40 feet underneath me, but they looked like they were right up against the ice because it was just so clear and it was so beautiful. You could see fish underneath your skates. Such a cool like experience. It's so untouched. Like even nature hasn't had time to go mess it up, and that's what I try to chase every season.
What do your parents think of this change in path for you?
They're so supportive. They're terrified half of the time. I don't tell them half of the things I do until after the fact. But what's funny is at the start of every season, it's just become like a little tradition. I'll skate out to like the middle of the lake as far as I possibly can. This is always on the very first time I'm out on wild ice, and I'll FaceTime them from the middle of the lake, and I won't say anything. I'll just like hold up my phone, and you can just see I'm on the ice with just like nothing around me. I call them at like 5 a.m. while it's like barely the sun's up, and I'm just like, hi. And they're like, you're crazy. But they're so supportive of it. And they even like drove me around Colorado to go chase ice. So they're super awesome, but I do scare them, I think.
Yeah, you'd probably give me a heart attack as a child, but also good for your parents for letting you follow your passions.
Oh yes, they know I'm a little wild, so they let me run free.
So you were totally burned out on ice skating. As a competitive skater, you found wild ice. How did it change everything for you?
Changed my life. I wouldn't be here living the life I am now if it wasn't for this transition. And honestly, skating has given me so many opportunities in life. Even through competitive skating, it's given me such an amazing career, but especially the transition to Wild Ice, I think, has been so pivotal in my life. Learning how to love skating for what it is again. I really lost that through especially the last couple of years of my competitive skating, and finding Wild Ice and learning what it's like to skate for myself again was so important. I think it brought out that childhood, the little girl who first stepped out on the ice when she was 6 years old. That came back to me. And sometimes I'm out on these lakes, goofing off and smiling and just dancing around and doing whatever I want. And it doesn't matter. One, no one can see me, but also it really truly doesn't matter. It's just what makes me happy. And it's given me such a beautiful light into skating that I don't know where I would be without it. So I'm very thankful for my pivot from competitive to Wild Ice. It's definitely changed my life.
I admire that Angelina has reclaimed the sport that she's always loved and made it her own. She has some exciting projects in the works, like taking a helicopter to remote lakes in Alaska and hopefully skating in Banff National Park. If you want to stay up to date on those adventures and watch her carve it up in her yellow puffer jacket, you can visit her on Instagram at The World with Angelina. Wild Ideas Worth Living is part of the REI Podcast Network. It's hosted by me, Shelby Stanger, produced by Annie Fassler, Sylvia Thomas, and Sam Piers-Nitzberg of Puddle Creative. Our senior producers are Jenny Barber and Hannah Boyd. Our executive producers are Paolo Motola and Joe Crosby. As always, we love it when you follow the show, take time to rate it, and write a review wherever you listen. And remember, some of the best adventures happen when you follow your wildest ideas.